Good morning, everybody. It is time for hopefully your favorite Sunday of the month. It is Science Sunday. Now, we are making a similar thing to something that we did actually just a few months ago, but you weren't here for it, so I'm just going to pretend like you weren't here. Well, you weren't. Okay, so we're making what I'm calling Witch's Brew just because I themed it for Halloween. Ooh. So basically why we're doing this is we're going to explore the difference in liquid density and how that impacts weather. So mine is finished, but I'm going to walk you through how to put it together. Okay. So you'd want to start with probably a clear jar, cup, anything like that, but so you can see what's happening inside. You want some kind of cooking oil. For this we use vegetable oil, food coloring, water. You don't need a measuring cup. I just put a specific amount of water in there just to make sure everything worked accordingly. And you also need some of those yummy Alka seltzer tablets that we love when we have a headache or a tummy ache. So you want to take the jar, make sure it's nice and clean, and then you're going to add 3/4 of the jar's worth of olive oil or vegetable oil. So you can take the little lid off of there and do about 3/4 of the way. Again, this is not a specific, it's going to depend on the size of your jar, but for this case, it's going to be about 3/4 or so. You can use more.
Okay, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, girl, pour some more in there. You might have to use the rest of it.
Yeah, it's not very much. Okay.
Yeah, go, go, go. All right, you're good. Okay, so then I specifically used about 1/2 a cup to 3/4 of a cup just to make sure mine was filled correctly. Again, this is going to depend on your jar, but you want to fill the rest up with water.
All right.
Okay, so have you ever put oil and water together or like heard the term like oil and water doesn't mix, or like me and that person don't mix because we're like oil and water. You know, the difference is because it's all about density, right? So now you can see, now that you've poured it in, that the water's sitting on the bottom. Do you know why?
Yeah, because they don't mix.
Yeah, they don't mix because water has tightly packed atoms and molecules, which makes it more dense, so it sits on the bottom. So now I want you to take the food coloring. We're doing purple because Halloween-y, and I want you to pop that in there.
Spooky.
And watch what happens. So it's going to start off at the top, but eventually
amount, or just
you can put as much as you want, girl.
Get
more
crazy,
purple,
have fun with it.
More colorful it'll be. So the food coloring sometimes will sit at the top first, but eventually it starts to go down, and that's actually because it has a similar density and viscosity to water, so it's going to mix with the water and kind of ignore the oil, which is an important part of, again, density and the fact that they don't mix. So now, to make it fun, we're going to take a little Alka seltzer tablet.
Ooh.
And we're going to pop it in there.
All right, let's do it.
And watch what happens. It's happening slowly in mine, which is interesting. So I did this about an hour ago, and I wonder if mine is going slower because it's been sitting, because look how active yours is.
Well, I will say, you know, it's very exciting to see, especially for kids, as the colors are changing and it looks all spooky, and then you have the little spiders. Like,
Yes.
I think it's one of those things as well that, yes, it is science, and so you're learning something, but it's something fun to do for the holiday.
Yes, I did choose these nice little spiders to make it spooky. So I think that yours seriously does look better because it hasn't been sitting there. But so these are the two things that we're watching. One, the reason why we're having this reaction with the Alka seltzer tablet is because the Alka seltzer is kind of reacting. They're having a chemical reaction with the water and the vinegar. It releases CO2, carbon dioxide, which makes it have all those nice little bubbles. So more Alka seltzer you put in, more carbon dioxide you're going to have. Now the reason why we talk about liquid density when we talk about the weather is because when we have a difference in air masses, so difference in cold and warm air masses, the cold actually is more dense, so it sits on the bottom. So like when we have a cold front, like what's coming through this week, the cold air kind of pushes the warm air upward and replaces itself with the colder air. And so we talk a lot about, oh, you can hear the fizzing. So we talk a lot about liquid density and changes in density when we talk about different air masses in forecasting. And also we talk about the difference between when I go like do school talks, things like that. So you talk about the difference in density in this experiment. You use the Alka seltzer tablets to show the CO2, but what actually will happen is once the Alka seltzer tablets are all done, everything will settle back, but the oil and water will stay separate.
And it looks so cool. And didn't you give this a name? It's like Witch's Brew.
Yes, I get.
You're calling it.
I know. I was just trying to be green though. But
Yeah, well, I
Brew,
think it kind of looks like that though.
Yeah, it does.
Very cool.
And you can kind of do this experiment with your kids. You can have them maybe do a hypothesis to think about like what they think it's going to happen, explore the scientific method, things like that. Because even then you could use this as an example and say, well, hey, Kayland, what do you think is going to happen once it's done? And the answer is the oil and water will go back and separate themselves.